Hello, beautiful souls. Ignore what's going on back here. I gotta fix everything. It's driving me crazy in the past few videos. So hopefully I have it fixed by the next one. If not, then hopefully by the next one. But today I wanted to talk about something that a lot of women that have had children don't talk about, and that is my postpartum, and also what happened during my pregnancy. So for me, it is pretty tough. So some trigger warnings: there's severe depression, there's almost miscarriage, infertility issues. So if you don't want to watch that, it's perfectly understandable. You don't have to watch this, and no hard feelings. I completely understand. So to get started, at the very beginning, I was told since I was about 13 or so that I would never be able to have kids or even be able to carry a pregnancy full term. I've been told that for years, and it always hurt me, so I never thought much of it. And I got in the Gardasil shot, and that was the HPV prevention shot, and I regret that. That is the one thing I regret the most, because since I'd gotten it, I had ovarian cysts all the way up until I had a full hysterectomy, and that's the worst imaginable pain I ever went through. I would rather go through childbirth again, or having a C-section again, than dealing with ovarian cysts. I mean, they were horrible. They were just excruciating. So because of those and the endometriosis, just all my problems, I was told that I would never be able to carry full term. And that was if I could even get pregnant. And I was told that for years. And so I never really tried. I was very reckless. Never really cared about condoms or anything. That was stupid on my part. It really was. I admit that. But when me and my husband got together, like I mentioned before, I've known him for over 20 years. And when we were maybe 2 months in, we decided we wanted to try to have a baby. And I told him my problems. I told him, do not get your hopes up, because I've been told I would not have one, and I should have a hysterectomy by the time I'm 25 to before I'm 30. So if we don't have a baby because of me, please do not be that disappointed. Like, this is a warning. So I let him know, and he knew. It was full disclosure, like, hey, this is what the doctors have been telling me for years. So he knew, and we got engaged on Christmas midnight, and then on January 11th found out I was pregnant. And I took 3 or 4 pregnancy tests, and then went to the hospital to confirm and see how far along I was. I was only 3 weeks along. So I was very scared. I'm like, okay, I wasn't supposed to get pregnant. Why am I pregnant? Like, am I going to keep this? Is it going to stay? Am I going to carry full term? Is it going to be a healthy baby? Like, all of these thoughts running through my mind, and I was driving myself crazy. And at this time, I was smoking cigarettes, and when my husband found out that we were pregnant, he smoked the last of my pack, because I quit that night. He smoked the last of my cigarettes, and it was over half a pack. So he had fun with that. But went to the hospital. They told me I was about 3 weeks along, and I came home. We got home at like 6 in the morning, right before my mom woke up. Waited for her to get up and get ready for work, and I handed her my discharge papers, and she read it and was like, okay, what am I reading? And I showed her what part she needed to be reading, and it said diagnosis is pregnancy. And she looked at me like, wait, are you serious? Because she knew how bad it hurt me, because my thing was, I always wanted to have at least one child of my own. And if I needed to adopt the other, then I would adopt. But I wanted 2 children, one at least my own. And So I showed her and she was just so surprised. She was so happy. She slapped my husband because he knew what he signed up for, but he didn't know what he signed up for. And it was just out of excitement. She was so happy because we never thought I'd be able to have kids. She was so ecstatic. And I'm like, yay. And I was kind of already showing at 3 weeks, which wasn't normal. Like, you could see a little belly. So that was kind of telling us something wasn't right. And we didn't know what. So doing the doctors, I think about 10 weeks along, we noticed something, and it was a big cyst. And I always got cysts on my right ovaries, never my left. And the fact that I had a big cyst or mass on my left ovary was saying something, and they thought it was 10 centimeters. The doctor was saying, okay, if it does not go down or anything, or if it doesn't change, then we're gonna have to get it taken out. So me already being told that I would not carry it a full term, now having to have surgery while I'm pregnant, freaked me the hell out. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. What the hell is gonna happen? So at, I would say maybe 15 weeks or so, it didn't change. You could now see it in the ultrasound. It was pushing against the womb. And I had to have surgery at 17 weeks to take it out. And again, they thought it was 10 centimeters. Come to find out, they didn't find out until after they took it out, it was a cantaloupe-sized mass. So I was told if I would have waited 2 more weeks to get the surgery or do anything about it, my daughter would have died in the womb. She wouldn't have had room to grow or anything. She would have died if we did not get that mass out, and it killed me. And so that was one of the worst surgeries I've had. I hate stomach surgeries. They hurt so bad. But she wound up being okay. I was now a high risk pregnancy. I was already high risk, but I was now more high risk. And we had to keep an eye out, and then I started noticing some bleeding, and that just tipped me over the edge. I was freaking out, I was crying, and I was already on anxiety medication that was safe for pregnancy, but I wasn't on mood stabilizers yet because we didn't know if there was any that I could take, and I didn't feel comfortable at that point in time to take any while I was pregnant because I was too scared. And so I noticed some bleeding. I woke my mom up freaking out, and my husband did get upset with me. He's like, why didn't you wake me up instead of her? And I understand why he did, but I mean, I needed my mom at that point. She'd understand. And come to find out, it's just from the surgery. The baby was perfectly fine. I still remember it. I was still crying and freaking out. But I remember one of the times too, I think it was way after surgery, I had one of the worst nightmares ever, and it was so vivid. And when they say pregnancy dreams are vivid, they mean it. I mean, I felt I was there because I had a dream of my mom getting blown up in a car, and I woke up screaming my head off, and my husband freaked out, and he had to go wake my mom up for me to see she was okay, for me to calm down. I had a full-blown anxiety attack, and whenever I have a really bad anxiety attack, I have seizures. So I had one while pregnant. It was not good, but as soon as I saw she was okay, I calmed down a little bit. And then, like, towards the end of it, it was so hot in Texas, and the fact that our AC was not working, it was always 80 something degrees in the house. So on top of being hot as balls in our house, I was always so swollen, and morning sickness was bad. Granted, I didn't have it so bad that I had to be hospitalized, but I still had it pretty bad, and I was just always swollen. I couldn't walk too far. I mean, it was to the point I didn't have ankles at all. I barely had toes. My feet were so swollen. My ankles and legs were so swollen. And I had to always prop up and everything. And it was just horrible. I couldn't walk. It hurt so bad. And then I remember at one point I was freaking out because I kept hearing someone at the door, like, jingling the doorknob. And I'm like, okay, nope, hubby, you need to come home. Nope. And it was bad. Fast forward to when I gave birth. I went in. Apparently I was in labor for about a week, and finally I got induced because I had to move out of state. So we induced at 39 weeks. That hurt so bad. It was one of the worst pains I ever felt, was getting induced. And they did it at the doctor's office, and then I went into the hospital that night and did the Pitocin and all that, and was in active labor for 18 hours. Nothing was happening. I got to a 6 and labor was not progressing, and I was freaking out. And my mom was like, there's no point in getting a C-section if you can do it natural and all that. And I'd already had the epidural and everything. Nothing was progressing. I knew something was wrong. And they said, if you do not progress more by 8 o'clock, then we're going to have to do a C-section. And honestly, my mom and them made me feel kind of bad that, you know, I had to do a C-section. It wasn't me giving up. It was the fact I had to do it. It wasn't fully my choice. And so I wound up doing it. That was horrible. So they did the C-section. I felt some of it, and I barely remember anything. I just remember I was shaking so bad. I was freezing. I was going into shock because I'd lost so much blood. I bled out almost. And they handed me my daughter for a second, and literally for 5 seconds, it was enough to take a picture. I told my husband, hey, I need you to grab her. I'm about to drop her. And he caught her just in time because I was going into shock and I could not stop shaking. My teeth were chattering, everything. I could not stop shaking. It was so bad. And I passed out. I blacked out. I don't know what all happened. They got videos and stuff. The next thing I know, I woke up and my husband was the first to really hold her, and then I was, but my mom had come into the room when I'd woken up, so they brought in my daughter and I got to see her, but I was not fully able to move yet, so I was completely numb from like the neck down. I know that's not how it's supposed to happen, but that's how it happened, and I was like, okay, something's going on. But my mom got to hold her, and I was okay with that. And then my grandmother came in, and I'd had problems with her, but the fact that she had come for the birth and everything made me feel better. It kind of was the redeeming thing for me. So she got to hold my daughter and see her and everything, make sure I was okay. And next thing I know, I have to get blood transfusion because I bled out so much. And then, thank God, the nurse listened to me because I noticed my daughter's something was wrong with my breathing. Something was wrong with my daughter's breathing. And it was barely noticeable, but it was noticeable. And they looked, and come to find out, my daughter was going septic. And we don't know what caused it or anything, but she had to be put in where they call a nursery for over 10 hours, pumping antibiotics and everything. While I'm pumping milk for her, they had to pump her full of antibiotics, and I could only go in there a couple times, and I couldn't hold her or anything. And as I'm getting a blood transfusion, they wheel her away to put her in the nursery to give her antibiotics and everything. So we were there, instead of for just a couple days, we were there for 9 days, because on top of that she had jaundice. So every few hours she had to get antibiotic put into her along with the UV light because her jaundice was bad. And then the final day we were finally able to leave on the September 18th, I believe. Right? No, September 20th. We were able to leave September 20th. And that night, at like 1 in the morning, we got some sleep and immediately had to move because we were moving out of state. And we didn't let anybody else know, unless they were at the hospital with me. We didn't let anybody else know about my daughter being born until after we crossed the state lines, because of certain people that I did not want knowing. I did not want near my daughter. So we made it across state lines, and then that's when my postpartum started hitting. And it hit hard. We knew it was gonna hit, but we didn't know it was so bad. I think I was on medication at that point, I'm not sure. But I started smoking cigarettes again, and I just remember I didn't want to be anywhere near my daughter. I loved her, don't get me wrong, but I didn't want to be anywhere near her, because it was like, what's the point of getting close to her if she's just gonna die? Like, she's not gonna make it, so what's the point? And that's how it was in my head for my postpartum depression. It was so bad, and a lot of women don't talk about it. It's almost like one of those, it's forbidden to talk about. And a lot of people don't realize how normal it is to have postpartum depression. And for me, it was really bad. I mean, my husband was the one waking up with her in the middle of the night, feeding her, changing her, doing all that, because I wanted nothing to do with her. I couldn't do it. I could not get close to her just to lose her. I couldn't do it. And I mean, there were nights where I just couldn't sleep, so I'd stay up for hours on end and smoking cigarettes back to back, folding clothes, doing something. If she cried, I'd be like, okay, yeah, whatever. And sometimes I get her, sometimes I'd let her cry. I feel like a horrible person for that. And it was hard. I didn't know what to do. I was first time mom. We didn't know my postpartum would be that bad. And she was about 3 months old or something, and my mom was like, you need to get out of this. You need to stop. Like, you need to be with your daughter. And it was still hitting me a bit. I got a little bit closer to her, but she was more still daddy's girl. Then around a year, she was almost a year old when I went to get psychiatric help, because something was wrong. I was not okay. I was thinking of ending myself. My seizures were worse because my anxiety was worse. I was not okay. And I was only gone for 5 days. When I got back, my daughter didn't know who I was. She was crying every time I would hold her. She did not remember me. And that it broke my heart. It really did. So a lot of women need to hopefully understand that postpartum is normal. It happens. You should not be afraid to talk to your doctor. And you need to talk to your doctor if you ever feel it coming on. Because it could be mild, but it could also be severe. And it's not something to ever be ashamed of or anything. It happens. It happens. Don't be ashamed. So yeah, that's my pregnancy and postpartum with my daughter. So yeah, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. If you have any tips for me, it'd be greatly welcomed in the comments. Thank you. Bye.